Well, hello, everyone. We might as well get started. This workshop will be recorded and made available to everyone afterwards, all right? So, welcome. My name is Kevin Gunn. I am the coordinator of digital scholarship here at Catholic University of America Libraries. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun using an open source software called OpenRefine. And we're going to go in and clean some data and just sort of play around with it and show you some really neat things that you can do with it. This is an introduction to OpenRefine. So if you've used it quite a bit before today, this will be a review. That's about it, all right? So I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So let's get right in. I feel compelled, I've done this workshop before, and I feel compelled to sort of start with a short introduction just to the idea of data. So I suspect for some of you, this may be a review, and that's fine. So let us get right into it. So topics for today, I want to talk about, what is exactly clean data and why do we want to clean it? Seems elementary, but there are things to consider. We'll also look at some common problems and solutions for cleaning the data, and that's where our workshop will come in using OpenRefine. A lot of common problems you'll get with data that you necessarily have to clean, everything from errant periods to white space and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll get, show you some tricks of the trade to using this software. And then next, we'll do a very short introduction to the Google Refine language. It is really interesting tools that they have built in that will allow you to manipulate data much more closely and much more better. So it is definitely something that you want to know. At the end of the workshop, I briefly mentioned regular expressions. So there are things where you can just pull down a tab menu and use that. You can write little short code in Grell that will clean your data, and then you can go really hog wild, but on using regular expressions. But there is a steep learning curve with regards to regular expressions. So that is something to consider, but it gives you sort of the multi-dimensionality that you can use with OpenRefine, which is really great. So, what is data cleaning? Data cleaning is the process of identifying and removing or correcting inaccurate records from a data set. So there's the whole issue of the syntax that you have to be worried about, getting rid of those periods, for example. But there are larger issues as well as to what is your data, how you want it to represent it. So you clean data for a number of reasons, because quite often your data is going to be unfinished, it's going to be unreliable, it's going to be inaccurate, it's going to be false or non-relevant. So you just can't use something you download off the web and go there. You have to take a closer look at, see what's in there, what's relevant for you, what's not, and go from there. So you'll have dirty data that will need to be restored, remodeled, or removed, is basically, and you have to make those sort of decisions moving forward. And it's, as a general rule of principle, it's a good idea to record those sorts of decisions that you're making with regards to your data set. So data cleaning can be performed by batch processing through scripting, and of course that requires additional knowledge, more courses to take, so you get to know how to do that. There's also data wrangling tools out there, of which we are going to use one of them. So I love this slide here. So what data scientists spend the most time doing? And the fact of the matter is it's cleaning and organizing data, 60% from a poll in 2016. So that's quite a bit of the work that they do. But at the same time, what's the least enjoyable part of data science? And that is, cleaning and organizing data. So 57%. So this is the non-sexy part of the workshop, if you will. It's essential, and hopefully today I can show you some tips and tricks to make it less painful moving forward. So I'd like to point out also this article by Hadley Wickham. He's wrote a great article a few years back called Tidy Data, and he basically outlines all the things you want to do with tidy data. So anyone working with data, I highly recommend reading this. He's written a number of packages in R, that statistical software and programming platform that you can use. The other one, the big one, is Python, but he's a big fan of R, so he's done a lot of stuff in that, and he talks about what you need to do, what you need to know to make sure you have tidy data. Structuring your data sets to facilitate analysis. That's basically your ultimate goal in getting tidy data. So you're looking at a data set, you're looking at a collection of values, and every value belongs to a variable and an observation. So it's something that you have to be cognizant of when you look at your columns. Do they have one variable? The rows have one observation, that sort of thing. So each variable forms a column, each observation forms a row, and then each type of observational unit forms a table. So once you put it together, you've got this type of table. So some of the common messy data set issues you're going to have, column headers are values, but not variable names. Multiple variables are stored in one column, more common than you think. Variables are stored in both rows and columns, so you have to learn how to sort that out. And then you have multiple types of observational units are stored in the same table. So a lot of the data that's counting, if you will, different things is stored in stored in the same table. So you have to be very careful of that. Then you have a single observational unit is stored in multiple tables. So we're actually going to play with a couple of those scenarios today. All right. At the same time, I sort of do a little pushback on cleaning data. We're not robots. We just don't go in and clean the data and then present it. We have to make conscious decisions. I work in digital humanities with regards to projects and that sort of thing. And one thing you have to do when you're working with data is you have to make decisions. There's an element of reducibility to everything that you're working on. And I think Rawson and Munoz in their blog entry called Against Cleaning, I highly recommend this. They talk about working with the New York Public Libraries, what's on the menu, curating these menus, and they have to make a whole bunch of these various decisions that ultimately lead to sort of reductive points, or you having the imposition of a normative order that you have to worry about. So you're sort of imposing some type of order, and that order is not neutral. You are making conscious decisions about what you're including and what you're excluding, and you have to document what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, the justification for it. So I highly recommend that article there. So, all right, let's get to OpenRefine. So what is it? Where did it come from? And open access, who uses it? So it's a powerful tool. It's been around for quite a few years now. It's working with messy data, cleaning it, transforming it from one format into another, and extending it with web services and external data. So it has the characteristics of a spreadsheet, so sort of like Excel, but is not a spreadsheet. It works more like a relational database. So that's something to keep in mind. So from whence did it come? So way back when, there's a company named MetaWeb, and they created this thing called Freebase GridWorks, and that was it. And then MetaWeb was bought by Google in 2010, and they changed the name to Google Refine. And then a couple of years later, they said, you know what, we're just going to release it as open source software, and it became OpenRefine. And that's basically been where it's at that point. So who uses OpenRefine? The OpenRefine website has surveys that they've done the past few years, and the latest one was done in 2020. So you can see that for librarians, for many of us, we've really moved on to OpenRefine. Definitely appeal there. Archivists weren't even listed a few years back until 2020, so they're moving in that direction too. Other businesses, data science, for example, they've fallen back a little bit. Data scientists, data journalists, not. Semantic web people have very much started using that, and I suspect it's because there's a Wikidata extension to OpenRefine. So I think a lot of people are sort of working in that general area. Again, you have cultural heritage data enthusiasts as well are moving in that area too. So it's kind of neat. So here are some sources there, and I'll make my slides available to everyone when I send out the recordings and that. They are in the folder that I sent you. The link I sent you has that in there too. So there you go. So we are going to go to this. Hopefully I have put the link into, let me do this. All right, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put it into the chat. So if you just getting this for the first time, go ahead and get that. I'm going to assume that you have downloaded and installed OpenRefine on your computer. If not, that's okay. You can follow, and like I said, you'll have the recording afterwards, and you can go through and play with that. So let us get moving here. I am going to be working through this handout called Cleaning and Manipulating Data. Let's see, here we go. Where to go? Right here, OpenRefine Workshop Tutorial. This is the DOCX. I'll just click on that. Okay, there you go. So this is the item here with the link to the data sets and everything else. So here it is. What I'm going to basically do is just walk through this handout and just talk and explain what's going on as we go through it. So it's a short introduction overview. So we're going to be looking at facets, filtering, clustering, and transforming data. Just basic stuff here, okay? I like to change it up a bit. So I'm using 3 different data sets to demonstrate some things. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute. I will check chat periodically, but not as frequently as if you just have a question that you want to ask, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is that we have the little diamond, if you will, a little blue diamond on our desktop. So why don't you go ahead and click on that, and a little black box, I call it, it will come up and it will load OpenRefine. And if you are successful, you'll be looking at this page here where it says OpenRefine. So my first question is, can everyone see this? And number 2, is this on your computer? I'll take silence as, hey, it's working great. Okay, super. All right, so let's take a look. Thank you, GWU. All right, so here we have an interesting, I should mention first, we're using 3.5.0. That's the latest one, just came out in November. So it looks pretty stable. So if you're using that one, that's great. If you're using an earlier version, hey, don't sweat it. I don't think there's that much difference between that, at least for us today. That's fine. All right, so what are we looking at here? Here's the landing page. So you can import data by a number of these different files. So you have, tabs separated, comma separated, everything you want separated. Excel, JSON, all these wonderful things. So it really speaks to, like, if you're a metadata librarian, or if you're working with, if you're working with XML, that sort of thing, you're going to be working on different data sets and that I don't really have that much experience with, but I can help you possibly. Myself, I work more within text and using comma separated values. So that's what I'm going to be using today. But don't, I encourage you to play around with a lot of this other stuff. If you know how to do JSON and that, you can download JSON files and that. So you've got a lot of really great ways to work with your data. All right, so I notice here you can do a number of things. Where can you get the data from? Well, you can just, if you have it on your desktop, you just pull it in. Well, that's what we'll do. You can do web address URLs, which is fine, clipboard data set. You can also do Google data. And what you can do there, if you click on that, you can sign in, and you have to authorize Google to access your stuff. And what will happen is once you've signed in this blank space right here, you will have all your spreadsheets that you have in Google will be listed there. So you could use that as a basis for working with your data. I'm not going to do that because I got a lot of files and stuff like that. So that isn't definitely an option, the way you can move forward here. So I'm going to do this computer. I'm going to click on Browse. And I'm going to pick the first one that we're going to use is authors, people, comma, separated values. So authors, people, comma, separated value. And it says, oh, great. So it's loaded up there. And then I'm going to click on Next. And now we get to our wonderful dashboard here. So a number of things that you have to consider before you move forward. Right now, you're just looking at the data, right? So let's say this is my first time looking at this, and I go, whoa, this thing needs a lot of work. So I look at this and I say, well, there's a number here in this author persons column. I see persons' names by comma. I also see periods listed after some of them. So that looks like that column may need a little bit of cleaning up. I look in the title and I see a lot of interesting things here. Some periods I notice right here behind the X-Men. I should mention that this is from the British Library. Their comics, they had a comics database, so you can download parts of that. So I was able to get a whole part of that data set. So I'm just using the small set of that for illustrative purposes. So looking at this, we sort of get a view of what we're going to do. Oh dear, we have, brackets. We've got question marks, all these sorts of things. It's kind of weird going through here. So we see a lot of stuff that we know that we're going to have to clean up. And look at this, more than one ISBN in a column. So we have things like that that we're going to have to consider. If we look down a little bit ways here, this is telling me how am I parsing the data. I'm doing it by comma separated values. But if you look further down, you can do it by all these different methods. They'll tell you which method that you're using here. So just for fun, let's see. So what I want to do here is I don't want to move anything, and I certainly don't want to shut anything down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the URL here, the 127 number. I'm going to open up a new browser. So I'm back to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Browse, and I'm going to take authors, people, but I'm going to do Excel file. So it's got to do an inspection. And it lists here your Excel file. And you notice you can tell it's Excel file because it says Excel file right there. So you notice a number of different things here that's happening. First of all, you've got the number listed up here and it's to the right. Numbers go to the right, basically in Excel. String characters are to the left. If you look down here, data publication, these are considered strings by the software. So it's on to the left. here you have onto the right, and they're given numerical values. And that's why they're given the color green. So you have this, you have all this. This is all text. But if you notice, this number here, this ISBN, they dropped the 0 and they moved it to the right and turned it to green. So why am I pointing this all out? Whatever your data set is, you know, the cleaner it is to come up with, obviously you're going to have less work. So something like Excel, it's importing all that stuff from Excel into here. This is what you want. You want an Excel file put in here. This is what you're going to get. So you have extra cleaning to do in that sense. In the other one that I showed here, we're doing simple, comma separated values. So what happens? It treats everything as one big string text, if you will. So everything here is to the left, to the left, to the left. Everything's to the left in these columns. So, I mean, that's fine, just as long as you're aware of that going in. So you'll have a sense that you're still going to have to do some cleaning with regards to each of the columns. I should also mention here as well, remember, you're not just doing the data set for today and cleaning it and using it. You know, you do want to preserve it at some point, I would think, I would hope, for the next person who comes along. So it's good to be agnostic, if you will, with regards to different platforms. So it's nice to use Word, you know, Microsoft Word, but will Microsoft Word be available 20 years from now? Who knows? A TXT file may be much better, maybe a much better source to save than that. So looking at character encoding here, Windows 1252, I have no idea what that is. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to be safe and go to UTF-8. Didn't really change all that much in here in the background, but it gives me a better sense of mind that working with this, a better frame of reference, if you will, that you're not importing stuff that you may not want to import given the particular software. So I do UTF-8 just to make sure. That's basically very basic character encoding. It goes down the bits and bytes and all that sort of stuff. So all the hexadecimal, blah, blah, blah. Go take a course in that if you want. It's a very basic way to look at your data moving forward. So you can look at that. You can separate by commas, tabs. You can do some trim leading if you want. You can do column names here. So let's say you're not very much interested in these columns names. You can just click on that and they'll replace it all here, but they'll move your headings that you had here down one. So if you wanted to just to work that way, you can do that. So, all right. So there's a lot of different things here that you can use, storing blank rows, storing blank cells, and all that sort of thing. That's fine. Once you've selected what you want to do with this, you can go to update preview. So now you're up to date here. Notice we haven't really been able to do anything. We've just been looking at the data set and just saying, oh, okay, looks like we can work with it basically. So what I'm going to do now is I've got the project named up here. I can put in tags up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create the project. You'll notice I can't really do anything with a lot of stuff here. Not much. So what I have to do is I have to create the project. So it loads it up, and here it is. So a number of things to consider when you're looking at this. One is we only have a little bit here. We only have, looks like 10 rows that we're using. So I'm going to go with 25, gives us a better sense of the data, what that we're working with. You can see the number of pages listed here. You can go to the last page, that sort of thing. You can do a number of things. Here's the Wikidata I mentioned earlier. So you can do a lot of that if you're into that sort of thing, semantic data and the like. So the big thing though, where we get the basic meat and potatoes of this software, so you'll notice there's little diamonds. next to each of the columns. And we can actually do some stuff with this. So if you go to the handout, the first thing we'll do is we're going to work with facet data. So what we want to do is we want to click the publisher column. So here's the publisher column. And what you want to do is you actually want to click on the little arrow pointing down, and that's going to give you a number of different options that you can use. And believe me, we're not going to do all the options today. I'm just sort of demonstrating principle here. So we can do select facet. So I'm going to do facet, and then select text facet. So I'm going to do that. And you'll notice right away something happened on the right-hand side of our screen. So we have what here is all the publishers listed here. It looks like we have 1,660 choices to choose from. But is that actually true? It's more like records, if you will. So what we can do is we can count, look on the left-hand side, we can observe the record count for the publisher Titan. So if we go down here, we can scroll all the way down. Oop, come back. All right, there we go. So here we have Titan, 3,627. You can barely make it out there. But notice what we have here, our first problem. So we have a number of Titans. We have Titans distributors, books distributors, Titan books, and all this. So one of the things about working with data is you sort of have to be familiar with your data, and that is, do all these Titan books, do they all represent the same entity, if you will? So you have to consider those sorts of decisions. So moving forward, we'll come back here. All right, there we are. All right. So if you put the cursor to the right of the Titan book, let's see, right here. So let's see this one here, Titan book. There's 2 entries. You can click on edit. And here it is, Titan book. So you can do something with this. So you can say, you know what, I want to type in Titan books. And then I want to apply it. And you'll notice that Titan book has disappeared and it's been added to Titan books. So that's a very quick way that you can edit, going in specific facet and using that. At the same time, maybe you decide you don't want to do that. What you can do, and this is one of the nice things I like about OpenRefine, is that you can go up here to undo and click on that, and it will list all the actions that you're taking. So let's say I didn't want that. I didn't want to do the mass edit of 2 whole cells. What I can do is I can click on create project like that and say, well, has anything changed? Well, yeah, if you go back to facet, there's my Titan book right there. So you can't really screw up. And I should also mention too, that if I do something wonderful in this database and I really want to save it, I highly recommend that you export it as soon as possible. That way you can save it, that your work has been saved. If not, at least be familiar with the method of how you got to that point that you want to keep it. So maybe taking notes as you move along may be a good way to go as well. So just a little bit of good tips here moving forward. But right now we haven't saved anything permanently. We're just having some fun. All right, so that is a very quick way of doing faceted searching and then working with the facet filter to do some basic editing. So if our next step is going to be, we're going to do some filtering, and we're going to do filter some data. So we're going to go to the publisher column again. Here we go. and we're going to do text filter. And on the right-hand side here, we have a publisher picks up. In this case, I can close the publisher right here. It doesn't really matter. There we go. And just concentrating that. So you can have a whole bunch of these boxes open if that's your preference, but I kind of find it kind of confusing if you have too many open. So I'm just going to pull that up there and I'm going to type in Titan. So very simple. I typed in Titan and I got 4,684 matching rows listed here. Notice I did not do case sensitive. So if I do case sensitive, so basically what this tells me is in this column, the word Titan is capitalized, first letters capitalized throughout, so I don't have to worry about it. But something to keep in mind when you're doing text searching, string searching, you have to worry about case sensitive. And of course, you can use regular expressions at this point. I am not going to do that, but you can very much search if you want. If you're comfortable using regular expressions, you can actually go in this column and parse out a word. So for example, if you knew the formulae, you could search for ng apostrophe s using a regular expression, seeing where that's indicated throughout the title. So that can become throughout the column, pardon me, the publisher, I should say, column. So let me rephrase that. If you want to look for just DON and a question mark, you can restrict your search just to that sort of thing. So, and of course, regular expressions can be quite complicated and involved too. So I'm just saying that as an example. All right, let's see what we have here. Now, what you could also do, if you have a mind to, if you're looking at publisher, what I'll do is I'm going to take this back out. So now I've got everything here, right? What you can do is you can go into each individual cell within OpenRefine and change it. So in this case, I'm going to take away the brackets here. There you go. So, and here's the nice thing. I can just apply it to the cell, or I can do it to all identical cells. So that's one way that I can do it. So I'm going to do that, and I'll get a little pop-up here saying 202 cells in column publisher. So I cleaned it up a little bit just by that method. And let's say that I don't like to do that. So I'm going to undo it. And there you go. All right, so that's basically a quick way that you can work with filter data. Your next one is cluster data. So we're going to go to publisher again. And we're going to edit cells. Now you begin to see, oh, we're getting into the deep end of the pool here. So we can do transform, we can do common transformations, split multi-valuable cells. We can start to do a lot of different things with this. What I'm going to want to do is cluster and edit. Oh yeah. All right, so more good stuff. We're in the deep end here. So what can you do? You can cluster what has been presented here. And the important thing is, well, how did OpenRefine bring all of this together? How did it bring these different values in the cluster? What sort of decisions? So what they have here is a couple of different methods: key collision and nearest neighbor. And they also have the keying function, so you can do fingerprint and gram, this sort of thing, and a bunch of algorithms, if you will. So if you want to know more about this, you can find out more here. OpenRefine has a nice little user manual. It's a few years old, but still somewhat useful. And you can specifically see cluster and edit. And this is where it gets kind of nasty. So if you really want to know if it's important to you, what the methods are, here they are, they're listed, and they explain that to you moving forward. So if you need to know that sort of thing, they're going to assume that your key collisions are going to be basically what you're looking for, stuff that looks very familiar to you, and that you'll notice all the different algorithms here, and then also nearest neighbor, all these sort of clustering methods that are there. So I'm just showing that to you just to let you know as an FYI. So what you can begin doing here is you can start looking at these and you can say, wow, that looks like the new cell value. I think this is going to be Titan. And I think this is going to be Titan distributor. And this is going to be DC Comics, Titan and that. So it goes through the whole site, right? The whole database and starts doing that. But what you can do we take that out and we go here and we do text filter and we go Titan. Make sure you select the right column. All right. Text filter, type in Titan, and there you go. You've got all your Titan listed, and then you can redo the clustering again. So publisher, edit cells, cluster and edit, and this time you just have the Titans listed here. So that's one way to narrow it all down. So sort of a two-step process. One thing I did notice here, and I should point it out, we have 4,684 matching rows. Yeah, I did a quick addition in here, and not all of them are given in here. So I find that very interesting. So this may be your first great attempt, and you may get all the Titans under one roof, if you will, but you may come across strays a little bit later. So what are we going to do? Titan. Go and Titan. There we go. And so let's see what happens. Merge selected and recluster. Okie dokie. What? So it did not work in that sense. So we're going to do that. Back to this. And merge, go edit cells, cluster and edit. And I think what I'll do is just click these in here. So I suspect if we did just that, merge selected and recluster. Okay, my apologies. I was getting ahead of myself here. So now we'll put all these together. Let's see, we want to do this. I want to take that out. Like this. There we go. Now we have this entire column is just Titan, at least for the 4,684 matching rows. So there you go. That's a very good way to cluster same entries together. Again, you're making the assumption that they're all related in some way. Titan books, Titan distributor, that sort of thing. All right, so transforming data. What I'm going to do, I should point out here, this tells you in each case what you did. So if you only wanted to do a couple of them, you can go back a couple steps here. So I'm just going to go back to create project here. Go back to the basic one, and look, you'll notice it's all back to normal. All right, so the next one we're going to do is transform data. And for that, we're going to do look at preset transformations. So you have preset transformations, and you have the OpenRefine expression language, commonly known as GREL. So let's take a look at Publisher. Once more, and we're going to edit cells, and we're going to do common transformations right here. So what are some common transformations? What you would expect, right? Trim leading and trailing white spaces, consecutive white spaces, this sort of thing. Do you want to put stuff in the title case, uppercase? Do you want to use a lowercase? Do you want to change it to number, date, text, all that stuff to an empty string? You have all these decisions that you can make. So we'll do trim leading and trailing white space. So look at this. We said we've only got 9 cells where we had to do that, and it shows you the GREL, value.trim with the parentheses. So that's your basic expression that you can use for that if you wanted to. So they're giving you some shortcuts in here. So if you do want to use GREL, you want to get into that, what you can do is you can go to author persons. Right over here, we're going to use different column. We're going to do edit cells. We're going to do transform. So we're not going to do common transformations. We're going to do transform. And this is where it gets fun. So another dimension to this is, what is your expression that you're going to be using? Right? I have no idea, right? So you're sort of stopped here. If you look on the handout on page 2, you'll notice halfway down I've mentioned regular expressions, common expressions, and I've listed a number of common expressions that you can use and their function in doing the searches here. And I pulled this from Illinois University LibGuide. I've given the source there too, so there's a whole bunch more there that you can go to take a look at. So we'll just play with this one right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do value replace. So we did edit, transform, then we're going to do value replace. So you'll notice right away, it just says value, right? So it's not saying anything totally cool. You'll notice the preview page here. So nothing's changed. It's the same as what's over here under author persons. So we need to change that a bit. So we're going to do value replace, and we're going to do single quotes. And as I'm typing, notice what's happening on the right hand side here. It's telling me that I should keep typing because I don't have proper syntax in there. So I'm going to do the quote, single quote, comma, and another single quote. So the first function is I'm looking for all the commas in this particular author person's column. So I'm looking at that, and then I'm going to do a comma. Then I'm going to do, what do I want to do with those commas? Do I want to put in colons? I could do that if I wanted to. Semicolons, whatever, I can put anything I want in there. But in this case, I don't want anything. So I'm just going to do 2 single quotation marks. So there's nothing between the 2 single quotation marks. So basically adding that up. Notice it says I still have a parsing error, so I need to put in the parentheses. There we go. And it says no syntax error. So it sounds reasonable. You think, well, yeah, it may work, but you're not too sure, right? So you can look at preview, and you can look at what's happened. So it tells you what you have, and it's telling you what the result is. And you can tell right away. The commas have disappeared. So I can do OK. And now you notice all the columns have disappeared here. The commas, pardon me, have disappeared. So it's a very good way using a GREL. So let's say at this point I want to save this project. I've got some good work done on it, so I want to save it. I can go to export. I click on export. Here, move that over, and it tells me a whole bunch of different things that I can save through here. And I love this. I've been using comma separated value, so it automatically put that up here. When I was preparing for today, it did not have it there. So I'm just pointing that out to you. Very interesting. So what you can do, if comma separated value is not listed there, you can go to custom tabular exporter. Ooh. And you can click on that. And you can click on download, and you can get comma separated value listed there. Or if you want to do another format that's not listed under export. So there you go. I won't download it, but there you go. You can save that and it's good to go. Remember to give it a good name to reference, put the proper name in there, a date as well for when you want to load it up next time. All right, so that is the comic book collection. We're now going to go and use another database, and I have to move it along. So next one we're going to use is the Powerhouse Museum. So here we go here. This one's from Australia. I'm going to do CSV. There it is. And I'm going to do next. And here it is, completely different data set from Powerhouse Museum. Looks very curated in here, I'll tell you right now. There's still some things that we can do with this. It's from the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences in Sydney, Australia. So we can look at different things here. So let's take a look at the object title here. And what we need to do is create the project. So here we go, 3,900. And this is just a small sample from this institution. So I'm going to go under object ID, object title. I'm going to go to facet. And I'm going to do numerical facet. And what does it tell me? No numerical values present in this column. So that's a good way to check for something. If you want to know if it's all numeric or if it's all character string. Very important little trick that you can do there. Now let's take a look, and this will tell you what you get. Notice nothing popped up here, so kind of an interesting option. So if we go to record ID and we want to edit cells, we can do common transformations. That's what I call, and we can go to number right down here. So each one of these has a number, 3914, 3914. So each one of these has a record ID number. That tells me right away, okay, good, we're not missing anything like that. The second thing is, it is now a number, a bona fide number column, which is very different from having a string, character string as a number as a character string. So something to be aware of when you're doing this, if you're using dates, for example, or strict numbers. And you'll notice also that it will give you the letter green to let you know that that is a different thing. So here we go. I'm going to click on edit here. And it's telling you to apply to all identical sets. I don't think I want to. If you look under data type, it tells you number, right? So you can actually look at text, number, Boolean, or date if you wanted to do that. So there's different ways that you can work with the columns in that regard. So I'm not going to apply it there. I'm just going to demonstrate that to you. Now, if you wanted to take a quick look here under all, if you go to edit rows and remove all matching rows, boom, your whole data set has disappeared. Everything's been removed up here. So we want to undo this. So there you go. So if you freak out, so if you see that, don't freak out. You can do the undo, or you can go to the undo over here list as well. So I just wanted to show that to everyone. So there we go. And the next thing here is record ID. I'm going to pull this down. We're going to look at facets, customized facets right here. There, so more and more facets going on here. And then facet by blank. So null or string. So if I click on this, you'll notice on the left-hand side, it gave me the choice of false, 3,914. So for record ID, they're all present. So it's another way you can confirm that. So they're all present and they give a false value in that regard. Okay. Now, if we go to record ID again and we look to sort, this gives us this option here where we can sort these values by text, by numbers, by dates, by Boolean. I'm going to do my records. So the smallest record is pointed here, and then we have later going in numerical order. So that's a very quick way there. So if I were to do this again, numbers, I'm going to do largest first. I do OK. And you'll notice up here, a little sort button has appeared. So you can also do it through here. You can remove, reorder rows permanently. So I'll do that. And that's been done. So there you go. All right, so that's that data set. Now we're going to do one more data set. This one's kind of the fun one. I'm going to have to move very quickly here. So you'll notice I have multiple browsers open, so I can work with multiple data sets if I wanted to. So the last set I'm going to use is called the Dijon prices wide .csv. This is prices from, what was it, 1560 to 1588 or something like that. We have 1568 to 1605 or whatever. So this is from another set looking at various grains on the market and how much they cost over the years at that time, that sort of thing. So you also have your character coding US ASCII. That's pretty safe too, so I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to create my project. So I need to do some transposing here. So I'm going to go to 1568. Pull that down. I'm going to go to transpose. And I'm going to transpose cells across columns into rows. So there you go. Now we have this column let up here. You'll notice that each column has a year listed here, and then different prices, and you have wheat and mixed grain and all that sort of stuff. So what we have to do is be very specific here. So we're going to do one column. There it is. And we're going to say, I don't know, what do you want to call it here? Now let's see. We want to prepend the original column's name. We want to select 1568. We want to go to 1630. And we also want to fill down in other columns. So let's see if this works. Yeah, it worked. It worked as well as we wanted to. Notice we have commodity, we have measure, and we have year. But wait, the years are listed, but they got the prices are listed in there too. So we've got a bit of a problem here. So we need to edit this column. So we're going to go to year. We're going to edit the column. We're going to split into several columns. There we go. So what are we going to do? We're going to take those colons. See all the colons are listed here? We're going to separate. It's putting. Is that colons or? Yeah, it is actually colons. So we're going to do colon. open that and split into 2 columns at most. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do. Let's see, I'm going to leave that blank. I'm just going to do the separator as a colon. And there we go. And now we have 2 numbers, right? This is a number, it's price, and this is the year. So at this point, we can edit this column. Just, oops, come back here. We can rename this column. We'll just call it year. And then this one here, we can do the same thing. And we could call it price. And there you go. And under year, you can sort by the dates. And there you go. So that is basically it for today. I have the handout listed here talking about regular expression, common expressions, as I mentioned, and a number of the common expressions that you can use, their sources. I've also listed a number of resources that you can consult if you want to. And I also put in some regular expressions in places where you can find regular expressions and how to work on regular expressions and all that. Very helpful. And at the very end, I mentioned that there's a library carpentries course out there. It's a 3-hour-long course, and I would highly recommend it if you want to take a deep dive into OpenRefine. So that's the presentation for today. Are there any questions? Okay, I am working, just to let you know, I'm working on a workshop for OpenRefine using regular expressions, and I hope to put that out in the spring. So do stay tuned. Thank you very much, my friends at GWU. Yeah, there's a lot there. I really recommend spending some time just playing around with it and looking at other tutorials and that. This software is really worth the time and effort. It's a real time saver. I can just say that. So thank you very much, everyone. And I'll send out the recording once it becomes available. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.